Hey everybody, it's Emily, the Crazy Worm Lady. I'm here today with our delayed Worm Factory update. Neglected this bin a little bit. Partially on purpose, partially because I've just been busy. But look at all those climbers. The top definitely has some moisture. Doesn't appear to be dripping, but it is wet. So let me get this pulled back and we'll take a closer look. Alright, so our biggest pile of climbers was what was right up here. And these are primarily night crawlers. That's a night crawler, that's a night crawler. Those are two blue worms, but looks like most of these worms are large night crawlers. So again, because we're having this moisture buildup, they tend to go explore a bit more. Kind of tells me I need to continue to be pretty generous with my bedding. But I'm not seeing much food in here. But the good thing is it seems like the worm densities are still remaining relatively high up top here. I received a microscope attachment to get really close-up pictures sent to me by one of my subscribers, David. So I'm hoping this week coming up I'll be off of work and I can get that up and running and try to get some really good pictures not only of my worms but of some of the microorganisms and bugs that we get in the bin as well. I think it will be really fascinating. So it's looking good. Actually, the compost, if I peel back this bedding at the top, this compost is gorgeous. Oh, there we go. I didn't know we still had food in here. Oh, and we have beetles. Those creep me the crap out, guys. So gross. Wish I knew where they came from and how to control their numbers because they just give me the creeps. But despite all of the beetles that are now climbing on my hands and I'm not screaming, the worms seem to be doing really well. So we'll continue to look at this for a minute. I expect full kudos on not creeping out and screaming on that. Reassure me, guys, that I'm not alone. Definitely the last person anyone would have expected to do indoor worm composting. My entire life I've been a bug phobe. But look at how well these guys are doing. I can't even begin to imagine how many worms I have in here. I think I started probably with 2,000 plus. Then we know I added the night crawlers, which was probably a couple hundred of them. And I know for a fact that they've done a lot of reproducing in here because the density is just so high. I think I probably have at least 4,000 worms in here, but my estimations are usually crap, so it could be even higher. But think about it, guys. A worm has 5 hearts. Look at all of the heart and the love these guys are putting into this composting. I know that's super corny, but can't help myself. They're just doing such a good job. And the castings, I mean, how much more perfect do those castings get? I mean, you can just see the granules are just so small and fluffy and flaky. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. So honestly, relatively no food in here at all. So they'll have to get a feeding today. I could just stand here and do this for hours. I'm gonna try not to put you guys through that torture. But it does appear that the blue worms and the night crawlers are living quite harmoniously together. And I will say, I just started new European Nightcrawler 10-gallon totes, and I always had issues with them being probably the biggest climbers and attempted escapees out of all of my worms. And so I left the lid off for 3 days after I set those bins up, and then I put the lids back on. Holy crap, guys, I opened the lid like 2 days ago and worms fell all over the floor. They were climbing all over the edges. So I'm not really surprised these guys are climbing. The system, the two 10-gallon systems are absolutely fine. I just think any condensation buildup at all and those guys go climbing. So I'm going to lay down a little bit of coconut coir. That'll absorb some moisture along with this stuff, which is still not, it's not saturated. It's definitely moist though. But so that'll give us something to absorb some moisture. We'll feed and we'll cover it up again with some more coconut coir. Okay, so I had some issues. I almost dropped a ginormous bin into this bag, dumping in the coconut coir. Luckily, no one was injured. But my light that I sit on the step stool was knocked over. So, been doing this in all my bins. You'll be hearing me say it a lot. I'm adding a lot of neem cake. It's good for bug control. It's got a lot of nutrient value. And it helps the good microbes prosper and the bad microbes to stay away. So, it's got a kind of funky smell, to be honest with you guys. It's weird. I have tried to think of how to describe it, and it's really not something I can describe very well in words. It's just an unusual smell. But I also have a really large pot of food that I thawed the other day, well, last week, and got sidetracked and didn't get all my updates done, but the amount of moisture that I drained off of this was really incredible. So keep in mind, if you thaw food, it's best if you can thaw before you put it into your bin, because all of that moisture then would have ended up in my system. And that's when you start having problems with leachate flooding out the bottom and things like that. So now that I'm all out of breath, I'm going to pour in this feeding. Still wet, but at least we were able to pull off a good amount of the moisture. Not a large feeding, but definitely one that I think will be very appetizing. Got some bananas in here, some watermelon, looks like some bell pepper tops. I think these guys will get into it really quickly, so I'll probably do a midweek so that we can see the action. So eggshell time, and we'll call it a day. Alright, so I buried all that up. This very well may be the most beautiful covering I've ever done in my life. I actually took time to make sure all the edges were covered with multiple inches of the coconut coir. And as I said, this was pre-moistened, which is important because if you recall, in my early days of the urban worm bag, I added a really substantial amount of barely moistened coconut coir, and I ended up just drying the whole system out. But this stuff, I probably can even get, I can even get a few drops out of it. So it's moist. And since I buried everything so well, I'm actually going to leave this bin open overnight to allow the lid to dry off, the sides to dry off, and even let the core dry out just a little bit. And then I'll close the lid tomorrow. We'll leave it, and hopefully come next week or my midweek look, we'll have some action in the middle here, maybe some less bug activity. I'm really trying to get all these bugs in my systems under control, and we'll continue on from there. The new Urban Worm Bag version 2, which is now going to be their primary version, they upgraded, is now available. I received one over a month ago, I think. I feel guilty I haven't set it up yet. I told you guys I would. I do think this week I'll have the time to do that. So I will take you along. I found a new spot for it, and we will set that up. And I think we're going to start it with a tote I have of red wigglers that I've been holding out on you guys with. I think it's got about 2,000 red wigglers in it. So I think we might start it off with that. So we'll see. Stay tuned for that. Drop those comments below. Like this video. Subscribe if you'd like some more content from me. I appreciate you guys with all of your patience. As always, not always perfectly on time with my updates, but I do my very, very best, and I appreciate you guys tuning in. So I will see you guys next week, and I'll talk to you soon.